today you'll be receiving from a message full of God's power to help you become everything that God has created you to be. You know, God sent his son, Jesus, to die for you to have a life of abundance and for you to be an ambassador for him. What does that mean? That your life should represent his goodness. It's time to be about it. Tune in today's message and you'll be blessed.
Verse 7, it says this, and the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons, and they heard the voice of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife, they hid themselves from the presence of the Lord amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto Adam. He said, where are you? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden. And here is the first introduction of fear that we see. I was afraid. Why was he afraid? Because I was naked and I hid myself. Adam and Eve bought the contradiction. Have you ever bought something and you got it and you didn't like it? Or nevertheless, women, you can help me. You ever gone to a store where you go try on the garments and they put a skinny mirror in the dressing room and you haven't quite realized, like, this dress make me look good. This is real slim and okay. Then when you get home to a real mirror, you like, or you've ordered something online, it looks so good on the person online, and they spin it, and everything looks good, and you buy it, and you put it on, and it's like, you know what, let me put this back in this box, and let me put this word right on here, return to sender. Well, because Adam and Eve bought the contradiction and did not return it to sender, now they're in a place where now they are afraid, and they're hiding from the very person that they need. You know why? Because sin makes man a coward. Because Adam and Eve knew that they had messed up, instead of going to the presence of God, they ran away from it. But I want to point something out to you. God already knew. God did not have to show up in that garden and say anything to them to know what they had done. God was not on vacation. He sees what you think even before you did it. But God still showed up in the garden looking for his man. And I say that to those of you who you got some mess in your life and you're using that as an excuse to not run to God. If he showed up for Adam and Eve, who had listen, if I was God, I'd have been through right there. Like, you don't even know what struggle. You know, it's like when your kids try and go off on you and you like, do you pay any? I'm already giving speeches like that to my child because he can't even talk yet, but he got a nerve to have, I'm like, is that a little attitude? And I'll go right back. Excuse me, who you talking to? Shimmy. You can't even go to the bathroom by yourself. What you talking about? I mean, you know. Here's what's important here. Adam and Eve were naked the entire time. Right? And God said to them, I don't want you to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now wait for it. Check out this revelation right here in this center. God was saying to them the very thing he's saying to us. Of the garden, folks, you can freely eat. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat, lest you die. Well, God is not the author of confusion. He's not the author of death, right? But sin is. So if Adam and Eve were naked before and naked after, what was the difference? What was the difference there? Before they ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, the only voice that they had accepted besides the serpent at that time that tricked them to that was what God said. What God was saying in the garden was, I don't want you eating all that other mess over here because you don't need to hear or experience all that evil stuff, all that evil talk, all those evil reports. The only thing that you need in your garden is what I said. I said, don't eat it. That's all you need to know. And the serpent came around and said, you know what? I can't get them into fear if I don't introduce a contradiction. So if I can get them to eat this so they can start to see and understand some more things that they're not supposed to have experience with, then that's going to produce a contradiction. And now they're going to be afraid that what God said about their life really isn't true. And Jesus died to get us out of that position, but we live in that position so many times. Because you think you know better, or because someone else said this over here. If it's not what God said, return to sender. If God did not say, plague shall dwell in your house, return to sender. If God did not say cancer is going to kill you, return to sender. And what's interesting thing is once they got to the place and they started to realize, they tried to step into the place or step above what God said. Because listen, God is not going to show you every detail of your life. How many of you found that out? God, I would totally do what you said if you could just tell me how you was going to do this right here. How you going to handle these idiots over here? I just need to know that. I want to be there when they go down, Lord. Show me how that's going to happen. And if you show me that, then I'll trust you. But here's the interesting thing, is once they got out and started, they bought the contradiction, they accepted the contradiction. Now instead of before, they were living in a garden where Adam just woke up and he had a woman from a nap. How many of you single folks like to take a nap and wake up like, ooh, and this is legal? Oh, okay. Eve, the first time she opened her eyes, she had a man who had a job and a relationship with God and a future. I mean, come on. So now that they've gotten in this position, they did what so many of us try to do. They tried to use their skill and their talent and their education and their knowledge to fix the situation. So they start sewing together fig leaves. Now, how many of you know clothing made? If I offered you some undies that were made out of leaves and sticks, how many of y'all would sign up for that? And even after they made those fig leaves to cover themselves, to cover the shame that came with that decision, it still wasn't good enough, and they continued to get further and further into fear. Accepting the contradiction. They didn't need the tree of the knowledge of evil. They didn't need all that information. All they needed to know is what God said. I'm going to say this to you, and this may seem simple to some, but this revelation, if you get it, can change your life. Stop. Once you've heard from God, and once you've identified what God says about a situation, stop seeking other people's opinions about the situation. So many people get caught up, well, so I met this guy. He is so great. I dated that Christian guy, and he had a mean streak. This guy is nice. He's nice to his mama. He has a job. He treats me better than anybody. He makes me feel, but he doesn't stop me from going to church. In fact, he says he's attracted to that, but he just doesn't believe in God. But everything else is there, girl. Really. Maybe God sent him because he knew, since he respects me for church, that he'll come with me, or what they say at church, if your man ain't saved, then go home and do right, so then he'll want to find out what you hearing here, and what you think? Yeah, girl, because men out here is short. Listen, you better grab them while you can, because some of these crazy Christian guys, these guys in the church, and listen to all this stuff. And you done got into this situation that's costing you all these different sorts of things. And then here you are 5 years down the line asking God, why did he allow this to happen? Get rid of the contradiction.
I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I want to invite you to subscribe as well as visit our website at michelleferguson.org. We have some materials there that can help you as you walk through life, live the life that God created for you. As always, I'm Michelle Ferguson, helping you to discover, develop, and celebrate who God has created you to be. See you next time.